Today, we're going to be talking about 4 things to expect from the Chicago Bulls this upcoming season. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Modest Bazelis slam dunks in games, because in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we are talking about the 4 things that we should expect from the Chicago Bulls this upcoming season. And so the first thing that I think we should expect from the Chicago Bulls this season is going to be development. I think that you are going to see Bryson Graham and this coaching staff really invest in development. And what do we mean by invest in development? So starting with the rookies, look, I think that they are going to do everything that they can do to get the best out of Caleb Wilson and Dalen Swain. And I know Dalen Swain got off to a tough start here in the summer league, but I think that, look, they're heavily invested into both of these players. This is Bryson Graham's, first draft picks, so to speak, in the front office here with the Chicago Bulls. And so I think he's going to make sure that he does everything that he possibly can to make sure that he gets these players to their best in the NBA. And so I think that is point number 1 as far as the rookies that have just come into the team. And then next, the players that are already on the team, you can really expect for Bryson Graham and this coaching staff to lock in on them as well. And so, with Josh Giddey, look, I'm sure they want to see Josh Giddey get to the next level. I think that when you look at the construction of the roster, I think it makes sense for Josh Giddey to take another step, especially offensively, with his ability to assist the basketball. I think that the way that the team is set up, he is in a prime position to take it to another level with the assists, which is his superpower. And then also, too, I think that the way that the team is set up, it is going to give him some spacing as far as opportunities to knock down some shots from outside. But the question with Josh Giddey is, can he develop a little bit more, maybe that mid-range, maybe get to a post and a turnaround type of shot? I've talked about that before with him. I think he can do that, especially with the size. And defensively, he's going to have some help around him, which is going to help him too. But bottom line is, I think that they are very much invested into seeing him get to his best. And with Modest Bazelis, absolutely. I think that when you look at Modest Bazelis, you look at Caleb Wilson, I think that they are going to fuel one another. And I really think that Modest Bazelis is headed to a breakout season this upcoming year. I think that you are going to see more with the block shots. That's something that we continue to see with him, is his ability to get block shots. But I think defensively, he is going to get better on ball. But I really think that this is the year that he takes the step forward with a lot of his off-ball defense. I think that he is in a prime position to get a lot of steals with his length, his athleticism. I think that Tiago Splitter is really going to demand that from Modest Bazelis. I think that he's eager to show that. And so his growth is going to be very important for this team, really taking that next step as far as just building this thing back up to being a contender. And so also too, I think that you can expect for Bryson Graham and also Tiago Splitter to be invested into these younger players as well. And so look, Rob Dillingham, I know it's been very much up and down, and I'm not sure what it's going to turn out with Rob Dillingham over here with the Chicago Bulls, but I think that they are going to give him every opportunity to show that he can be an efficient point guard off the bench, or a player that you can maybe plug in as a starter from time to time, and he can get the job done. And then also too, I think Leonard Miller is a player that they're very much invested in, because when you're talking about size, length, athleticism, and physicality, Leonard Miller to me really checks the box. I love what he did last season, coming in a tough situation with the way that the roster was, and just clearly, that the team was going in a different direction, and he stepped up. And I love the fact that even if he wasn't scoring, he was doing other things on the court, which I think is going to really go a long way for Leonard Miller. I think if Leonard Miller is able to come in and just get, just something in his offensive game that he can go to. And so if it's a step back, if it's the mid-range jumper, something like that, something that is just really a staple for him offensively, I think that you're going to see him take the next step forward. And yes, he does need to probably get a little bit stronger defensively and things like like that. But certainly, I thought that he did a great job as far as playing the passing lanes, giving you the effort. I thought a lot of times, even if he didn't get the block shot or the steal, he was right there as far as where he needed to be, which I think that is huge when you're talking about playing defense. You have to be there. And so I think Leonard Miller certainly showed that. And so I think that Bryson Graham is going to be invested, into these younger players here, because going back to really what Bryson Graham said when he first took the job, he said that it is going to be a long process here. And so what that means is that you have to really invest in the development process to find out who are your long-term pieces. You're going to have to really evaluate everybody. And so that means even players that were here that you didn't trade for or you didn't sign, you need to make sure that you know everything that you can about these players before you go ahead and continue to make adjustments with this roster, which means you have to be just really trying to find out, hey, can they fit the system that you're trying to run? And then you're just talking about trying to make sure that you get the right core. The only way you do that is you have to go ahead and you invest in the development. And so if we don't see anything else this upcoming season, we're going to see that. And that also means with the Windy City Bulls. I think that when you take a look at the Windy City Bulls, you're also going to see that. And so that means Jalen Sellers, Awaka, and those guys like that, they are going to be very important too, because when you look at the Miami Heat, and we've talked about the Miami Heat, we talk about the San Antonio Spurs, like these are organizations that not only do they draft well and they go out and they're smart, I think, with what they're doing with their moves and stuff like that with trades and finances, but you have to be able to find players that are in, your G League affiliate team too as well, because look, injuries do happen. You're going to need players to step up and stuff like that, and you're going to have to give them a chance because you never know what you have unless you're able to, really build that program up. And so I do really think that Bryson Graham is going to invest in the Windy City Bulls. I think that this is going to be something that it's going to be like just something that we haven't seen before with the Windy City Bulls. And so I think that that's going to be important. And also, too, not to forget about Noah Asingay. He is absolutely going to invest in Noah Asingay. And so I know it was very much up and down for him as well. But look, you're talking about a player that was a high draft selection before you got there. And so Noah Asingay is absolutely somebody that is going to get some opportunities. And so expect for them to take patience with him. Bryson Graham has said that with this team that they want to be patient with this. And that means that you're investing everything that you can into these younger players and finding out what your young core is. And so the next thing that we should anticipate seeing here with the Bulls is going to be the structure. And when we talk about structure, I'm thinking about two things. I'm talking about the playing style, and then I'm also talking about the organization. And so with the playing style, I think it comes down to, when you're taking a look offensively, you're going to start to see some better ball movement. I think that the defensive energy is going to be there. And I think you're going to see a team that's going to play together a lot better. And so, I'm not saying that there's not going to be moments, where we're wondering, what this team is going to do. But I think that you're going to start to see that less and less, because I think that Tiago Splitter, what he did a great job of is really bringing the Blazers together and just really making sure that they were playing some efficient basketball. That's what it takes to get into the postseason. You need to be on the same page defensively and offensively, and that is what Tiago Splitter does. And so I think that he is going to do this with the Bulls. He is going to set the winning habits and the structures necessary. You're talking about somebody that's not only done it as a coach, he's done it as a player. And as much as we talk about the San Antonio Spurs, he is from that tree with the San Antonio Spurs. And so I think that you're going to start to see that type of discipline in the playing style. And as you start to see that, you're going to start to see the win totals go up, because you continue to do the right things long enough, you are going to start to see some success. Then also, too, when you take a look at the organization, when you look at the structure there, that's going to be huge. Now we're talking about the communication as far as the injuries. And so I think a lot of times we were talking about, okay, what are we getting here from the communication standpoint? We're saying that players are going to be ready. Then the next thing you know, they're not ready. And then it's going to be this ramp up period and stuff like that. Like, I don't think that you're going to see any of that type of just confusion as far as the communication. And then also, too, when it comes down to trying to get the best out of these players, you can trust that they're all going to be on the same page with what the best path is. I don't think think that we are going to see too many more articles out there about, hey, somebody asked Bryson Graham about this player and he decided to ignore them and stuff like that. Like, I think that all that is going to be out the window. I don't think that there's going to be a roster move that really we as fans don't understand, because the communication is going to be there. And that means that you have the right structure, to me. And so the next thing is you're going to see, I think, a direction with this organization. And so no matter what happens this season, we are going to see a direction with this team, because I think that we are already seeing that with the way that Bryson Graham has set this up with the veterans that he's brought in here. And so again, with Nick Claxton, I'll say it again, I'm not sure that I've seen anybody else talk about this. And so yes, Nick Claxton, he's coming from a Brooklyn Nets team that lost, but he had some success as a rookie. He played with Kevin Durant. He played with Kyrie Irving. He played with James Harden. And so they were in the playoffs. And so he's seen that type of success. I think that this is the type of situation where he gets that refueled again. And I think that when you look at Norman Powell and what he's looking to do, Norman Powell is looking to come in and hoop, but he wants to help this team get better. And so when you're talking about just the direction of this team, it's set up perfectly, because it's not too invested into players that you're thinking about, okay, they are going to carry us for the long term or anything like that. No, they're going to be competitive. They're in situations where it's team-friendly type of deals. And so Bryson Graham and this team has some options, but make no mistake about it, they are going to compete with the way that they are. And so clearly they are not going to be in the middle anymore. They're going to start to trend upward. So we love that. You can expect, I think, to see some more movement as far as, I think, trades and things like that. You're going to hear more trade rumors and stuff like that as well, because this team is going to be always active. And I think that that's exactly the way that the team should be. I'm not saying that they're going to just go out and make a ton of trades, but I do think that this team is going to be a lot more active when it comes to trade season and everything else. And so because of that, I would say that this organization is headed in the right direction. And then lastly, I'll say this too. I think that you're going to get more competition this year moving forward. So going back to something that Tiago Splitter said, he said that they're going to compete every night. And so look, they're going to compete in training camp. They're going to compete in preseason. They're going to compete in the season. They're going to compete in the off-season runs. I think that the entire mentality is going to change as far as the competition level. And I really do believe that there is a chance that if the Bulls can stay healthy, they can keep everybody on the court. We do see, hopefully, what we're looking for from Caleb Wilson and Dalen Swain and the rest of this young core. Like, I think that there is a chance that we might be seeing a very, very competitive team that could really have a better record than last season, because I do think that there's so many things from a structure standpoint going into this season that I like. I'm not sure that we're going to necessarily see as much chaos as we did at the end of last season. And so those are my 4 points here. And I'll close off with this. And this is something that I absolutely love with Bryson Graham. And so I'll never forget this, but when he talks about going back to his decision and really making the moves that he did in the second round, where they went ahead and they passed up on picking anybody in the second round. This is when he was on the radio station with Tiago Splitter explaining that. But he says this: if I told you we would go 6 years without the playoffs, we're not even going to sniff it, but the 7th year you're in the NBA Finals, would you take it? As a Bulls fan, absolutely, I would take it. This is a fan that has watched this team win its last championship. I'm taking that, because time is going to pass either way. And so if you're telling me that you can do this, constructively over the next 6 years, and the 7th year, you're talking about being in the NBA Finals, I would take that. And by the way, that is what the Spurs have done. And so I love that with Bryson Graham, that he's already forward thinking ahead. And he also said this too, that growth is not linear. And so that doesn't mean that everything is going to be just great and it's just going to just trend in the right directions. There is going to be some setbacks. There's going to be, a little bit of stagnation and everything else. But the point is that you have to continue to control the things that you can control and really focus internally that is going to change a lot of the stuff that we're seeing as far as outward with the season, these players and stuff like that. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking about these 4 points. Again, I said it comes down to structure, direction of the organization, more competitive this season, and then also to development. Those are the 4 things. So development, structure, direction of the organization, and more competitive this season. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. And look, as we always say, go Bulls, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.